Hello everyone, welcome to ClassBridge educational platform, your bridge to clarity. ClassBridge is an online educational platform that sees to the academic needs of students who are preparing for external examinations. For those of you just joining us, this is the online class on the use of English in preparation for the upcoming UTME. And I pray that as we go in the class, may God grant you wisdom, knowledge, and understanding to grasp all that will be taught. However, it is not just about prayers alone. Your efforts are needed as well. For those of you just joining us, in our previous sessions, we have examined the different aspects that you will be tested on in your exam, ranging from comprehension passages to closed passages, lexis and structure, oral English, and the recommended text. In the latest session, we talked about comprehension passages. There was a short comprehension passage alongside a few questions on the comprehension passage. And I taught you how to answer questions and the things you are to look out for if you are faced with comprehension passages, which of course is inevitable. In today's session, we are going to be looking at a very important aspect of your exam, which is under oral English. Of course, many students love to run away from oral English, but there's nothing you can do about it. You have to know it in order to pass. The aspect we are going to be looking at today is one that seems to be insignificant, but very important. And why is that? Every mark matters. You need to bear in mind always that irrespective of how much you think you've read or how much you think you know, every mark matters. And like I said in the previous session, UTME is not meant for guesswork. You have to be very sure. If you don't know it, you don't know it. It is not like the theory where you are allowed to pour out what you have upstairs in your brains. It is not a place where you can actually use your own idea to cook, as some of you will call it. You are faced with 4 options, and just one out of those 4 options can be considered to be the correct answer. And that is why you have to be very prepared in your examination. Today, we are going to be looking at consonant sounds. And not just consonant sounds, we are going to be looking at silent letters. Remember, I mentioned in the previous session that you will be tested on different aspects, and that is oral English. Under the oral English, you might have questions on vowel sounds. You might have questions on consonant sounds as well. We want to look at an aspect of consonant sound, and that is silent letters. You might ask, what are silent letters? What do we mean by silent letters? Some of you might have been familiar with this term, while others might not. And that is why we will be treating silent letters in this session. What are silent letters? Silent letters are letters in a word that aren't pronounced when you say the word out loud. In other words, they are sneaky letters hiding in plain sight. You have to know the definition of something before you can know the features of that thing. So they are letters in a word that aren't pronounced when you say the word out loud. This means you can see those letters, but they do not have any form of prominence in the pronunciation process of that word. In other words, they are sneaky letters hiding in plain sight. Sneaky, but you can see them. Plain sight, they are very obvious. But when you pronounce the word, they are nowhere to be found. You might want to ask, what do I need silent letters or the knowledge of silent letters for? You can be tested on that aspect in your oral English and on the consonant sounds. And like I said earlier, bear in mind that the efficacy and the purpose of this session is every mark matters. What if you are faced with a question that has to do with silent letters? How will you be able to address it? How will you choose the correct answer? That is why we are here in this particular session. So having looked at the definition of silent letters, we are going to look at a few silent letters and how they appear in words and why you should be conscious of them and how you should be careful of them when you come across them in your exam. And the first we are going to be looking at is letter B. But I need to establish that sounds are different from letters. Sounds are different from letters. Letters, otherwise known as alphabets. Do not mistake your knowledge of sound with your knowledge of letters. Now, consonant sounds, as simple as they may seem, are very tricky. And why is that? Majority of the consonant sounds we have appear to be the same as the consonant letters. Quite a large number of them. For example, letter T. The consonant sound for letter T is T. Letter B. The consonant sound for letter B is B. So, both the letter or alphabet and the sound are represented the same way. But the only difference is that while one stays alone in words, as you can see, the other has two slashes, one slash at the beginning and another at the end. Now, these two slashes are what distinguishes this from this. So this is a letter and this is a sound. I hope you are following. Now, I've given a question, a model-like question of what this kind of question will look like in your UTME. And we are going to take our explanation from there. Now, the instruction says choose the option that contains the consonant sound underlined in the following word. Now, we have a word here, which is bubble. Bubble. Do not forget that we are looking at silent letters in line with consonant sounds. Merely looking at the options we have here, you will see that there are some similarities of spelling in the sense that the letter B is quite prominent in two of the options we have here. And that is why you have to be very careful that you should know sounds are different from letters. And you cannot determine the sound of a word or the pronunciation of a word by the spelling of that word. The day you begin to mistake pronunciation with spelling, then there will be a problem. Acknowledge the reality that not all words are pronounced the same way they are spelled. Now, this is a word, bubble. Bubble. The underlined sound we have here is the B sound. You have been asked to choose a word here that contains the B sound. What do you think the answer would be? Which of these options do you think the answer would have been? I know that some of you would have been very smart to look at the other words that contain silent letter B here, and by so doing, you must have determined what the answer would have been. But peradventure, you did not have access to all of these other options. What would your answer have been? Now, here we have pan. Pan. The word pan does not contain the B sound, which is what we are looking for. Now, if you look at the next word, it has a B in it. However, can it be pronounced as dumb? Let's move on. The next word under option C is gather. Gather. Can you hear the B sound? No. Look at option D. We have it to be stumble. Stumble. By pronunciation, I believe you must have identified what our answer would be here. The answer here is stumble. Some of you might have been confused and you might have wanted to choose dumb. But I need to tell you that the B here is silent in the word. It is pronounced dumb and not dumb. It is pronounced dumb. But the word here is stumble. Stumble. and we are looking for the silent letter B. Are you following? These are other words that contain the silent letter B. Whenever you come across all of these words in your exam or outside your exam, bear in mind that they are all silent. And these words are pronounced this way. Pronounce with me. Lamb, lamb. Comb, comb. Subtle, subtle. Bum, bum. Doubt, doubt. Plumber, plumber. Debt, debt. Tomb, tomb. Thumb, thumb. And lastly, climb, climb. I need you to understand that it is the sound that comes before the B or after the B that is pronounced. The B in all of these words are not pronounced. Let's move on to the next silent letter we have. It is the popular letter T, whose sound will be T. T. The same model question that we had in the previous silent letter is what we are going to use again. It says, choose the option that contains the consonant sound underlined in the following word. And the word we have here is tank, tank. And the underlying sound is T, T. Now let's look at the options that we have. This one seems a little bit tricky because we can see letter T appearing in many of the options or all of the options here as the case may be. But let us pronounce and identify which one contains the T sound, which is T. The first option we have here is thank, thank, thank. Now, this TH sound has its own peculiar sound. The fact that you have the T sound appearing there does not make it a prominent sound, T, or a prominent sound, T. The next one is pronounced as hasten, hasten. The next one, option C, is pronounced as bathe, bathe. And option D is pronounced as last, last. Now, which of these options contain the T sound? It is not far-fetched anymore after the pronunciation of all of these options. This tells you that our correct answer here is option D. You might have been confused or you might have been tricked into thinking that option A is the answer because it has the T sound. Some of you pronounce this word as thank, whereas it is not thank, it is thank. And this sound you see here that looks like the theta sound is what represents the TH that you have here. Moving on to the next, which is option C, bathe. This TH contains the sound the. You can say that this the is the voiced version of this one, while this one is pronounced as your tongue in between your upper teeth and your lower teeth, and then you say like you are blowing hair. But ensure that you do not throw out spittle in the face of whoever is in front of you. However, practice breeds perfection. So, thank is the word we are giving here, and the word that contains that sound is definitely last. It is neither thank, hasten, nor bathe. Now, the T here is silent, and that is why it is pronounced as hasten and not hasten. Here are some other words that contain the silent letter T. Would you try pronouncing it before I pronounce it for you? Pronounce it. Let me give you 10 seconds to pronounce all of these words yourself. And let's see if you've pronounced them correctly. All right, let's pronounce these words. The first, we have whistle, whistle. The next, we have often. Quite a large number of students use this word to be often. It's not often, it is often. The next is pronounced castle, Basso. The next, basso, basso. Listen, listen. Ballet, ballet. Gume, gume. The next, soften, soften. And the last, mortgage, mortgage. Now, which of these words did you pronounce correctly and which ones did you pronounce wrongly? By now, you know how to pronounce all of these words. Whenever you come across any of these words listed here, bear in mind that the T is silent. Let's move on to the next silent letter. The next silent letter is letter D, known as D. D. So we've been given a word, lend, just like the others. Lend. Now let us identify which of these words contain the D sound. Which do you think will contain the D sound of all the words here? Have you picked your answer? Now pronounce with me. Option A is pronounced as bath. Bath. Now the TH here is similar to the sound we pronounced when we said thank in the previous silent letter. Option B, gliding. Gliding. Option C, judge. Judge. And option D, Wednesday. 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 Now, which of these options contain the sound? Of course, it is option B, which is pronounced as gliding. The sound we have here is the D sound, which is this. It sounds similar to D and the three-letter number or the small letter Z. However, this sound is pronounced J. A lot of people, a lot of students, as the case may be, mistake the J sound to be that sound that looks like letter J. That sound is pronounced Y and not J. Any word that has the J sound, this is the phonetic symbol of that sound or that word. So, the fact that you have D here doesn't make this D to be prominent. You don't pronounce it as Wednesday, it is Wednesday. And the fact that you have D in option C, how do you even want to pronounce option C if you want to pronounce D separately or distinctly? Will you say Judge or you will say Judge or Judge? No, it is judge. And that tells you that the D here is silent. These are other words that have the letter D to be silent. Pronounce with me. Handsome, handsome. Edge, edge. Sandwich, sandwich. Although some variety of English will pronounce the D sound, but it is safe to say that the D sound should be omitted whenever you want to pronounce the word sandwich. The next we have is ledger, ledger. Pledge, pledge. Knowledge, knowledge. Badge, badge. Handkerchief, handkerchief. Fledge, fledge. Grandmother, grandmother. A lot of students mistake grandmother for grandmother. Oh, she's my grandmother. No, the D is silent in grandmother. The next silent letter we were looking at is letter G. Many students mistake letter G for J as well, whereas G is pronounced G. Say it with me, G. It is a voiced consonant sound. Now, we have been given a word, begin. Begin. Now, the letter G in begin has gained prominence, and that is why we have it to be G. Now, which of these words contain the G sound? Pronounce these words and let me see if you will get them correctly. Now, let's pronounce. Option A is pronounced as badge, badge. Option B, joy, joy. Option C, gear, gear. And option D, benign, benign. Which of these words contain the G sound? It is definitely option C, which is gear. Now, the G sound here just like in the previous silent letter we treated, is here already. We have the J to be badge, and we have the J here to be joy. So, if you have to face a question like this, you have to be very careful because the G in the last option does not have a prominent pronunciation. Benign, when someone is soft or gentle or kind. So you cannot say benign. No, it is benign. So the G there is silent. In all of the words we have here as well, the G is silent. We have sign. No. It's not pronounced as gno. It is no. We also have foreign. We have align, resign, assign, phlegm. Now, it is not phlegm. It is phlegm. We have campaign, paradigm, and lastly, gnome. The G you find in all of these words are silent. Lastly, we are going to be looking at letter K, which is known as K. We've been given a word, pickle, pickle, pickle. Let's pronounce night, teacher, chaos, bangle. Night, teacher, chaos, bangle. Which of these words contain the K sound? It's not far-fetched that it is option C, chaos. Even though it has its spelling to be CH, you can't call it chaos or chaos. And that is why I've told you before that do not mistake your sound for your alphabet. The spelling of a word does not determine its pronunciation. All of the words you have on the right-hand side of the page, the A sound is silent. We have nail, knowledge, knit, knock, knuckle, no, tense. We have no, we have knee, we have knife, we have knot, and we have knob. All of these words do not contain the K sound in pronunciation. They are not pronounced. Now, what is the essence of this class? It is for you to familiarize yourself with silent letters, and it's to familiarize yourself with having to choose the correct option if faced with a question that contains consonant sounds that contain silent letters. JAMB bite. You have to pay attention to oral English. You might think the questions that come under oral English are not so numerous, but bear in mind that every mark matters. Every mark matters. Pay attention to detail. Pay attention to everything that you have to read. Comprehension passages, oral English, lexis and structure, and the recommended text. Do not look down on any of the aspects if you want to attain all-round success in your exam under use of English. We've come to the end of today's session. I believe that you've learned something from the session. Consonant sounds, and under consonant sounds, we have dealt with silent letters. This is ClassBridge online educational platform, your bridge to clarity. Please do not forget to like, do not forget to subscribe, and do not forget to share. Thank you very much for watching. I'll see you in the next section.